Welcome to SQL Server Administration Basics. In this module, we'll be covering SQL Server installation. Below is the link for the release page. We'll be going in detail in the release page to understand what are the RPMs that we need to choose for installation of SQL Server and agent. So we'll be covering SQL Server and configuring SQL Server, and in the end, we will be installing SQL CMD command line utility and then connecting and checking the basic commands on SQL. So let's begin. Okay, so first of all, let's look into the release notes for SQL 2017 on Linux. So in this release notes, we'll try and understand. So we are looking into the general availability, which is in October 2017. And here you will see the installation guides for all types or versions of Linux. So we will look into the RHEL. First, so we'll see the installation guides, the prerequisites that are mentioned, 3.25 GB memory, and how to install the command line tools through a repo file and then connect locally and then query a data. So here we will not be using the normal repo which is based on internet. We will be choosing the RPMs directly, and for this we'll scroll down and identify the RHEL related RPM. So we'll click on this link, and if you open this link, you will come to this page, and we'll choose RHEL, and we'll go to version 7. Here in the prod folder, you will find all the dependencies and command line utilities that is required for SQL Server 2017. We'll move to SQL Server 2017 folder. Here you will find all the important files related to SQL Server itself, like SQL Server agent, full text index. Then there is always on, which is HA, and then integration services. So these are the packages which are available in this folder of SQL Server 2017 as mentioned, and inside if you go to prod, then you will find all the binaries related to the components of SQL Server which is required. The link for the same is again given in the deck, and we'll now be moving to the installation of SQL. Okay, so welcome to the installation of SQL Server. So as you can see, we have installed one basic CentOS. So this is the operating system you get if you choose a server with basic command line utility. Initially, we have shown you the installation of graphic user interface for CentOS, which is having a very good UI. But in this, you will not be having a very crisp UI. You will be having very basic things. So from here, we'll just identify the IP address, and then we'll open Terminus, which is a command line utility in Macintosh. We'll connect to the server, which is on the same lines of PuTTY, and we can start working from here. So first of all, we'll create the folders required. So we'll create a MSSQL folder inside temp by using the command make directory, and inside this MSSQL will download all the packages that are required. So first of all, we'll use the utility wget. So wget, we will use a couple of parameters along with it, which is -m and -nd. Now -m is required for connecting to redundant mirrors which are available for from the particular site we are downloading, and -nd will be used for downloading them to the present directory without creating the directories which are present in the parent FTP server. Okay, so these are the basic things. Now as you see, we are now again moved back to home, so we will try to further move to the MSSQL directory which we have created. So we'll just press Ctrl C, and we will move back to the directory which is temp MSSQL server. Okay, so now we'll see there are no files and the present directory is temp MSSQL. So we'll just use the wget command which we have prepared, and this will download the latest version of SQL Server. Or let me correct myself, the present latest version of SQL Server which we are using as of now. I'm sure we will have a couple of releases because they have promised to give us a release with a bug fix of the recent identifications very soon. Okay, so here we will be downloading, and we are using the wget utility. So we are downloading it directly from the link which we have given in the previous slides, or it's also present in the deck. Okay, so this will typically take some time. So we'll pause the installation, and we'll resume once the download is complete. Okay, so the downloads is almost complete now. So we'll check all the binaries that have been downloaded. The RPM file is downloaded for SQL Server. So now let's go ahead and install. So we will use the yellow dog updater modified utility for this. We'll do yum install and give the binary name. It will check all the dependency and will say yes. Okay, so the installation will begin. It will uncompress all the files that are present in the RPM and then place it in the installation directory folder. Suppose this installation of SQL Server, there will be another setup we have to run. So that will be required for configuring all the basic parameters like the default folder name or the default backup folder for user databases. So all these properties will be set up using that command. We will also set up the administrator login password with that default command. Okay, so the installation is almost complete, it seems. Okay, yeah, so now we need to run this command which I mentioned before. So just copy and press this ms-conf setup. Okay, so here we'll be using the developer edition. Okay, and we will have to choose the accept the license. Okay, then will be the administrator password which I mentioned. So we'll key in the administrator password. We'll choose a very default password, standard password, and it will configure the SQL and all the basic parameters that I mentioned before. And it should say something like the SQL installation is complete and the server is up. Okay, the symlink is created. Symlink is nothing but it is a soft link created for the service in init.rd initially. Now we'll check the status of the SQL server. Oops, MS SQL server we need to mention. Okay, so here you see the server is active and running. Okay, so now let's clear the roster and let's download the ODBC driver, which is a dependency for SQL CMD. Okay, so the download was fast, and if you just do ls minus lrh, you will see the file size. It's just 4 MB, so that is why the download was so fast. Okay, so on the similar lines, we have to download the SQL Assembly tools, and as you see, we have downloaded it, and the status is up and running. So now let's install the ODBC dependency. So we'll just mention yum install ODBC RPM. It will say installation. We'll select the default yes, and with a capital yes, obviously, and its dependency is installed, and then we will just install the command line utility MS SQL tools. Just give ms install tools. Okay, we'll give a yes and accept the license. Okay, so the SQL CMD is now installed, but there's a trick how to we run it. So if you just type a which SQL CMD, generally it will give you the path of any binary, not only SQL CMD, any binary, it should give you the path. But now I know that the path which should have been there is missing because of the setting up in the environment variable, which will be done later on. But now if you just want to run it, there's a way out, or which is the normal way we can run it. So we will move to the path where it is installed, opt mssql tools bin. Here you will see the SQL CMD utility. So we have to give a dot slash SQL CMD minus s for server parameter, and we'll give a dot, or you can give localhost or the actual host name, and you will give the username as SA, and password for admin which we have used is admin at 123, and here we will connect. So we'll just do a at version, and we'll see the version that is there. So it's SQL Server 2017, and it's based on a Linux 7 core. Okay, So we will try to see something from sys databases. Now if you give a star minded, you might be overwhelmed with the number of columns and the output. So if you just want to see some basic things, you just choose the columns which are very important to you for to see. Like we just want to see the names of the databases which we have as of now. So we just give select names of sys databases, and this will give you a very neat output which will be readable. But again, you can choose the width in the SQL CMD parameter to set this width correctly. Okay, so we'll move on to the next video where we'll be seeing agent and visual code installation.